Okay, so these are a reminder that if you only have one x in the math problem, and it happens to be an x squared, then you don't need to factor to solve these problems. These can be done a little quicker by taking a square root. Of course, before you can take the square root to get the x alone, you have to move all the numbers away. So we'd start here. We're just working PEMDAS backwards. Just solve. So we would start by, since this is minus 16, we would add 16 to both sides. And then to get rid of the square, to get rid of the exponent, we would take a square root. That crosses off the square and gets x alone. And the square root of 16 is 4. Because 4 times 4 makes 16. However, the only tricky thing here is that there is a second answer to this. Because whenever you take the square root, you don't know if it was positive times positive that made that 16, or maybe negative times negative turned to positive 16. So there's actually two possibilities here, a positive 4 or a negative 4. So x could equal 4 or x could equal negative 4. There are two answers to this problem. We should write both. Okay, so I'm going to put a reminder that plus or minus goes in front of every square root that you take, because you don't know if it's two negatives multiplying to make that positive or two positives. Okay, let's look at a few other ways this could be set up. All right, what if it doesn't equal 0? Does it matter? Not at all. Working backwards, we would here subtract. Let's add 5. X squared equals negative 4 plus 5, so 1. And then to remove the square, we square root. That gets x alone, since square and square root cancel off. Every time I do a square root, I put a plus or minus. And then I ask myself, what's the square root of 1? Of course, you can use a calculator if you need to. But ask yourself, what times what makes 1? And you come up with it's 1. So x equals 1. I'll say and this time instead of or, and x equals negative 1. Two answers, one on each side of a parabola. Remember when we graph parabolas, they have two sides, so we have one answer on each side. That's why we get 2. Okay, let's look at one more. Okay, this one looks different because there's nothing added or there's nothing subtracted. But remember, you're thinking of order of operations in reverse. So this negative 2 is multiplied with the x squared. So we would want to divide it to undo the order of operations. PEMDAS backwards. So x squared equals to positive 49. And then to remove the square, we square root. Gets x alone. In front of every square root, we put plus and minus. And we ask ourselves, what times what makes 49? 7 does. So 7 squared. So the square root is 7. Okay, give it a try. See if you have questions.